Hello and welcome to the webinar for this evening, Salary Negotiation for Women. This is a webinar hosted by the University of Massachusetts Amherst Alumni Association and Women for UMass Amherst. I'm going to start by introducing the team from the Alumni Association today. My name is Karen Schultz-Battistoni. I'm the Manager of Professional and Alumni Volunteer Services, and I will be the one helping behind the scenes with some of the questions and also helping to coordinate the different people that are here. And with me is Greg Bouclair, who is a 2019 student here and also the intern in the Alumni Association with us, and he's going to also be behind the scenes with me. So welcome, Greg. I would like to introduce the two women who have made today's session possible. So the University of Massachusetts Amherst Alumni Association, in partnership with Women for UMass Amherst, welcome you to the Salary Negotiation for Women webinar. Mary E. Hayward is our presenter for today's session, class of 1990. She has over 20 years experience as a resume writer and career counselor. She's a certified professional resume writer, a certified job and career transition coach, and the author of Get Hired, the Guide to Successful Interviewing, used by thousands of job seekers to secure their dream jobs. She is also the author of the Salary Negotiation Tips booklet, which you received a link to in your email, and the link is also available in the chat box. Welcome, Mary.
Hello, everyone.
I would also like to introduce Janie Kaplan, class of 1979 with us today. She recently ended a 34-year career as an IT consultant with CGI Incorporated. She was recruited to work with CGI back when she was a student on campus. She is chairwoman-elect for Women for UMass Amherst, the group who partnered with the Alumni Association to bring you this webinar. So welcome, Janie, and I'm going to turn it over to you to talk for a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Karen. We're so pleased to partner with the Alumni Association to provide this webinar. You're probably wondering, what is Women for UMass all about? Well, we're a network of alumni that fund programs that impact UMass Amherst women and their communities. And each spring, we send out requests for proposals across UMass departments, schools, to groups who need funds to fund their women's initiatives and events. And we review the grant applications and meet with the applicants over the summer and make our final awards in the late fall. And I'm so proud to convey that since 2012, Women for UMass has awarded over $200,000 in support of dozens of projects across the UMass Amherst campus. We're sponsoring this webinar tonight because it aligns with our mission to connect with women who influence you today and in the future regarding your careers, and to fund programs that provide access, support, and opportunity for UMass Amherst students. Our projects this year, 8 in total, represent a great intersection of schools and departments across UMass, some of the most diverse programs and students that have ever come before us. I'm going to just talk about 3 of them so that you can get the gist of the types of projects that we fund from year to year. For the Graduate Computer Science Women, monthly travel grants for students to attend more conferences, to present their work, to network and collaborate, and ultimately promote UMass. The Asian American Film Festival for the showcasing of films created by Asian American filmmakers, to create awareness of different social and historical issues while challenging stereotypes. And last, the Women in Art and Math Symposium just got finished on campus. It was 2 days of exhibitions, presentations, and discussions held at the beautiful University Museum of Contemporary Art that highlighted the connection between art and science while recognizing the disparities in male-dominated art and STEM fields. We are really proud to be part of their teams to help them bring their projects to life. But I've run out of time, so please visit our website, umass.edu/WFUM, to learn more about the projects that we have funded and how you can get involved with Women for UMass, and enjoy the webinar this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Janie. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mary, our presenter, and she will pull up her slides and then begin the conversation about salary negotiation.
All righty. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Salary Negotiation for Women. And before we get underway, I just want to give a huge thanks to Karen from the Alumni Office for all her support and coaching and technical instruction that's enabled me to be here tonight to offer this presentation. Thanks to Greg for helping us to manage the questions. Thanks to Janie and Women for UMass for co-sponsoring. And a big shout out to my daughter Mariah, who was instrumental in helping me put together the content for the presentation. So we'll just get right underway. When Karen and I were talking about offering this webinar, Karen suggested that we do it on Equal Pay Day. And as someone who's been an advocate for empowering women through salary negotiation for over 20 years, I was very keen on this idea. So we're just going to chat for a little bit about Equal Pay Day. And it simply is the date into the new year that at which point women on average are earning the same amount of money that men average earned by the end of the previous year. So as you'll see today, we're roughly 3 months into a new year. And so that's how long it's going to take women to catch up to the point where men were at the end of December. Just as a reference point, Equal Pay Day in 2009 was April 17th. So you see here just a little bit of progress, although not a ton. We're just going to touch on a couple of key issues and then get into the basic tenets of salary negotiation and our system. So pay discrepancies vary based on ethnicity and by state. And just a reference point here, in 2017, Louisiana had the greatest gap, 69 cents on a dollar that women received for roughly the same work as men receiving the full dollar. And California, the smallest gap, 89 cents on the dollar. And so that's something that it would be a goal for us. It would be great too to see this equal across the board. Putting this in a little bit of a global reference, Mariah and I found this statistics when we were doing the preparation. In 1975, 90% of the women in Iceland just simply quit the job. And when I say job, I mean paid employment and housekeepers, homemakers. They all walked out, 90% of them. You can see the pic here, huge demonstration. The country came to a grinding halt. Within a year, the parliament passed an equal pay resolution. And now globally, Ireland is the leader in terms of gender equality. So, neat little story. And not so sure this could ever happen in the United States, but it goes to show us the power that women have when they come together. So before we launch into some key concepts in the process, Karen suggested that we might poll everyone and find out how many people have actually negotiated for their own salary. Okay.
Yep. So I just posted the results there, asking if you've ever negotiated before. The choices were yes for me, yes on behalf of a hiring organization, and no. And it looks like we have quite a few yeses, and also about a 40% who answered no.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say that I am surprised by the number of yeses, and I am heartened. When I poll people doing this as a workshop, the number is usually significantly lower for women. So I see this as a really positive sign. That's great good news. Okay, so we're going to now get into in terms of this problem, what can we do? It occurred to me relatively early on. We look at the research back to the mid-70s. Women were earning 75 cents on the dollar for the work that men did. And now here in 2018, that figure is 80 cents. And so in terms of social change, I think you'll probably agree it's pretty pathetic. So it occurred to me we can't count on the government, business, men, any other institutions to move the needle forward here. I think that what we can do in the here and now particularly is each one of us can learn how to negotiate, and if we make sure that more and more women learn how to do this, we can move the needle forward as a group. Okay, so to that end, what we're going to offer tonight is a simple negotiation process. Now, for those of you, the 40% who have never done this, I'm not going to say that this is going to be easy, especially your first time out. It's going to be accompanied by some basic anxiety and understandable anxiety. But what I am going to say is it is a simple process, and it's a tried and true process. It works across industries, profit, nonprofit, education, government. It works in all fields. And the key is it transforms what is normally an adversarial process to a collaborative process. And we're going to talk in just a bit how that works. So what we're going to want to do is learn how to become familiar with the standard phrases and language. And this is the key to mastering the skill. As I said, it's a simple process. It's relatively easy to learn, and it really relies on the language. Now, going along with that in terms of preparation, you are going to need to research what is the average salary for the position that you have applied for in your geographic region. So if you think about this, a department manager in San Francisco is going to be offered a significantly higher salary for the position than a department manager in Akron, Ohio. Okay, and this of course is based primarily on cost of living. So we've given you some good links in the booklet, and that's going to be part of your preparation, is find out what is the average salary for the position that's under consideration in your geographic region. And then we want to make sure that we negotiate every salary offer. Don't chicken out, okay? We'll show you shortly a very compelling reason why it's so important for you to step up each and every time. Okay, so in kicking this off, I'm going to reference my favorite book, Jack Chapman's Negotiating Salary, How to Make $1,000 a Minute. It's not a new book, but it is pretty much accepted as the Bible for salary negotiation. Published originally in '87, but updated a number of times. And in the book, Jack makes this statement: 85% of the people who ask for more money get more money. 85%. I tell you, this is an astounding figure. 85%. Now, if you are working with that statistic, we can move one step further and infer that 100% of the people who don't ask get nothing. So this is everything about nothing ventured, nothing gained. I wondered early on, well, heck, if 85% of job candidates get more money, why doesn't everybody try to negotiate? So what's the fear that's holding people back? Do we have a poll result for that, Karen? Let's see.
I just submitted the poll for people to answer. So the
Okay.
top reason why people don't negotiate the salary offer. So go ahead and weigh in on your response there.
All righty, let's see what we get.
Okay, looks like about half of you have voted. We'll just give it another moment. I see that several of you have already started putting questions into the chat box. That's great. Keep the questions coming. That way we'll have a good group of them for the end. Okay, I'm going to share the results now.
Okay, all righty. Well, this is good. It's interesting because the top answer is the top answer that I see all the time, although it's interesting to me that it isn't by a large margin. And so the main reason that holds people back is the fear. But it's interesting to me that people are also noting that lack of experience negotiating is a key factor as well. All right. Historically, in my experience, what has held particularly women back is this notion of being afraid that the job offer will be withdrawn. So I just want to take a moment or two and debunk that myth. I consider this one of my little missions in life, is to debunk the myth that this offer will be rescinded. And so we're going to take a look briefly at your standard applicant review process. Organization posts a job, they get anywhere from 50 to 200 responses. Now, one person's job is to sort through all those resumes and letters and get that down to a workable pile, okay? Now, even if they use an ATS, there's still, okay, here, there's still, somebody still has to monitor that process, all right? Now, we're gonna get this down to usually 8 to 10. They're gonna decide who they're gonna do offer phone interviews. It's going to be 5 to 7 people. So people have to conduct those interviews. There are more work hours logging up here. Then we're going to have a couple of people sit down and analyze the results of the phone interview and decide which candidates are emerging as the top candidates. So now we're going to conduct a second round of interviews. Minimum is one person for an hour and a half, but it's usually multiple people for several hours. Sometimes it'll be a series of interviews that'll take a half a day. Okay, again, these hours are ticking up. Then we're going to have to get grouped together again, and we're going to decide now, of these candidates who are the finalists, which two do we want to take time to do reference checks on, all right? Now we're down to 2 candidates. Now we've got to do reference checks. Those are time consuming as well. Nobody answers their phone anymore. All right, finally, one candidate will emerge, all right? So at the end of this process, we have what I call the chosen one. Now I'm here to tell you that short of streaking naked through that workplace, they're not going to rescind that offer. Why? One, they've got too much time invested. Two, people had to come to consensus decision, and we know sometimes how hard that is. So that's also something which takes time, and we have to get past that point. And three, the entire process has shown us that this person is the top candidate. They want this person. And overnight, your status has changed. You're no longer a job applicant, you're the chosen one. And by virtue of that transformation, you now are in a position of power, okay? So we want to continue, when when fear starts coming up and anxiety comes up, remind yourself that you are now a valued commodity, and these people want to bring you on board, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about key points for effective salary negotiation, and at the end of this list, we'll do another poll. So in general, salary negotiation experts agree that the first person to cite a specific number in a salary negotiation loses. So for instance, if you're naive, and this will often happen right up early in the process, perhaps in the phone interview, and they ask you what your salary requirement is. And if you're naive and you don't know how to reply, and because you're nervous, you give them a number, okay, that's it. You were the first one to cite a specific number, you lose, and the negotiation is over. And for sure, you've left a lot of money on the table, okay? Citing a specific salary figure, especially early on, can ruin the negotiation. Another key point is you want to stay in the game as long as you can. So you want to be prepared to go additional rounds of negotiation and get the best deal you possibly can. And this last point is so, so important. If you hear nothing else tonight, please hear this. Whatever salary you start at influences all your future earnings. So if you accept an offer and don't negotiate, this could potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars over a period of time. So do we have that poll results up, Karen, yet?
Yep, everybody looks like has weighed in on the result, on the question.
Okay.
So when the organization's negotiator makes an initial salary offer, where is that figure from? Is it from the lower end of the salary scale, the middle, or the high end? And it looks like overwhelmingly people have said it's the low end.
All righty, now this response is absolutely the response that I see all the time. And here's what this indicates to me, that people know what the deal is. Even if they're naive and they have failed to negotiate in the past, we know that when someone who's representing the organization makes an offer, it's from the low end. And the reason it's important to think about this is there are some implications. Well, main implication is that it's at the low end of the salary range because they're expecting you to negotiate. Okay? So we've got nothing to lose here and everything to gain. All right. Now we're going to get into the actual process. The notion, we want to look briefly at the actual notion of negotiation. You know, what do we mean? Negotiation, a term we hear all the time. If we're going to negotiate, we're looking at two parties coming together, okay, for an exchange. And if we are one of those parties, we have to have something to bring to the table, all right? Bargaining power, we hear that term all the time. So what do we have to bring to the table if we're in a salary negotiation? This system identifies that key point as bargaining point. You're going to identify what are the bargaining points that you have that will be the ammunition, if you will be what you're bringing to the table in hopes of a much higher salary. Bargaining point simply is anything that you have that is above and beyond what's required by the job description. So examples could be perhaps you just completed a certificate in some leading edge training. A client of mine just finished a certificate in project management and big deal PMP now. So that's a big deal to have a brand new cutting edge training there. It can be a function that's part of the job description, but you're at an advanced level so that you could actually coach other colleagues and perhaps even do some training. Nowadays, of course, anyone with advanced web or social media expertise, they can parlay that as a bargaining point because it's so much valued in today's workplace. So how are you going to come up with what your bargaining points are? You're going to very carefully review that job description to identify any areas where your experience, credentials, field knowledge exceeds what is required. So you're going to simply go through that job description, keep a little notepad and pen handy, and be identifying where you bring extra value, added value, if you will, to the negotiation. Okay. Now, again, another prep point. You've got your bargaining points and identified. Now, the other piece that you're going to want to find out, to do the research, is what is the salary range for this position in your geographic area? All right. I also suggest people do a little bit of thinking and think about what's the lowest salary I'll take this job at. What's my highest expectation? Now, you'll maybe wonder, well, why does somebody want to know what the lowest salary is? Well, you know, if you are career changing, you may realize that you're going to have to take a lower salary to start in a new career. All right, and you may be prepared to do that. So we want to have that information ready now as part of the preparation. And now we're going to look at that list of bargaining points, and we group them in sets, 2 to 3 items to a set. Now, if you are a recent grad, especially if you have never negotiated, then you're going to have one set, which means one round. That means they're going to make an initial offer, you're going to counter offer, and then pretty much accept offer number 2 from them, all right? This is very much about learning a skill that is going to be a lifelong skill, all right? And you get better at it and more experienced as you move forward in your career. Now, if you're mid-career to senior, you're going to probably have more to bargain with, all right? So you may have 5, 6, 7 things. Then you're going to, again, group them in sets of 2 or 3. And then you're going to have additional bargaining sets for around 2, mid to senior people, or even round 3, senior and exec level, okay? Again, you want to stay in the game as long as you possibly can. If the negotiation is done via phone, which they nearly always are, I strongly suggest that you do this. You're going to take maybe 10 minutes before you're due for the call and do a little bit, close your eyes, do a little bit of meditative breathing. And I want you to visualize the interaction. And I want you to visualize this going very smoothly, okay? You are centered in your own personal power. You know your value. You are going to be confident and clear throughout. Hold that image in your mind's eye. Okay, we know from research that whatever we picture within our mind, okay, then later outsources and becomes a part of our reality. So we want to really, really see our own success, okay, predict our own success. And then we're going to practice the initial offer. So let's look at the language, because as I said, this is key, and the booklet's going to go in to this in more detail. Now, when you receive initial offer, and it doesn't matter what place you're at in your career, I strongly suggest that you take 24 hours to think about it. This means that you're a savvy professional, okay? You can, if you're ready, move into negotiation right away, but I think in general it's a good practice to ask for 24 hours. So we're going back now to the actual start of the negotiation, which will be a second phone call, and the language goes like this. I want to thank you very much for your offer. I'm very excited about joining the team here at ABC Corps. You know, I think that you'll agree, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that with my, and now we're going to hit them with the bargaining points. And so this could sound like this. Again, I want to thank you for the offer. I'm very excited to join the team here at ABC Core. I know that you'll agree with me, or I'm sure you'll agree with me, that with my recent certificate, PCP certificate, and my advanced technical training, that I will be able to come on board and coach and train colleagues, and in that way build a stronger team. And I was hoping that the offer would reflect that. So here's the 3 key pieces after the thank you. Thank them for the offer. First key piece. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Just that little phrase creates a collaborative effort and takes away any adversarial aspects. I'm sure you'll agree with me, and then hit them with the bargaining points, 2 or 3. Bing, bing, bing. And then the close. And I was hoping that the offer would reflect that. Now, as soon as you deliver this statement, and you can practice it, and you should practice it, as soon as you deliver the statement, don't say another word. Don't start backtracking if there's a little silence. Don't start retracting the offer. Don't start explaining your counteroffer. Women are prone to this kind of behavior. Present it and just be okay with a couple of seconds of silence. All right? And wait for their response. Now, in framing it this way, instead of using, they say, offer you 52, and you might say, well, I'm sure you'll agree with me with this, this, and this. I think that a better salary would be 55. So we're not going that route, okay? Instead, we're leaving it open-ended. Remember, when we cite a specific number, it's over. So you don't want to do that. And the beauty of this system is you then will say, I was hoping the offer would reflect that. And that gives them the incentive to go back and then come up with a really strong offer. Because remember, they want you on board, okay? Now, real quickly, what to do with second and third rounds. Second round, which, you know, third round, pretty high level, not everyone's going to get there. Second round, though, when we come back to call number 3, this is what the language looks like there. I want to thank you very much for your flexibility. We're both in the same ballpark, or we're both on the same page. Some little reference that signals to them, this is going really well, okay? And we're close. Again, thank you for your flexibility. We're both on the same page here. Again, I think you'll agree with me. And then we hit them with round 2. And, you know, I was hoping for a higher offer in consideration of that. And again, just let them respond. So that is the system. As I said, read through the booklet. There's lots of explanations and samples. There's a sample script in there, and you can, you know, get more comfortable with the language. So real quickly in close, remember, 85% of the people that ask for more money, they get more money. And then if the person who's tendering the offer can't offer more money, either initially, occasionally, that'll happen, or after round 1, negotiate for non-monetary benefits, okay? Tuition reimbursement, conferences, any other kind of professional development, even gym membership. People negotiate for all manner of things, all right? Driving the best deal that we can. And lastly, folks, again, remember, whatever salary you accept or negotiate, all your future earnings are going to be based at that starting point. And failure to negotiate is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of several years. So that concludes the webinar. I'm going to turn it over to Karen and Greg for questions.
Thank you, Mary. So one question we got pretty frequently was how to negotiate a raise within a current role or promotion within the same company or team?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, okay, so now negotiating a raise, all right, it's the same general principle. All right, you're going to be looking at, and instead of, bargaining points that are based on the job description, what you're going to be doing is looking at accomplishments based on your tenure. So let us say that you're coming up for review, or perhaps there's an annual review, and let's say you decide that you want to negotiate sooner. So either way, either you're going to go for an early review or annual review, and it's time to negotiate. All right. What you're going to be doing is coming up with the same kind of reasoning as the bargaining points, only it's going to be based on your job performance within the past period of time, usually in a year. Okay, so I strongly suggest people keep a little log. You can just have a little folder somewhere on your computer, and as you finish a project, come up with an innovative idea, help transform a dysfunctional process, any of those things, write yourself a little note, because here's the reality of day-to-day life. We meet challenges in the workplace. Many of us will come up with innovative and creative solutions. We solve the problem, we move on, we forget all about it. So it's a great idea to keep a little doc where when you are successful doing something noteworthy, jot it down. Then when it comes time to negotiate the raise, then you've got the ammunition. Remember, you can't negotiate if you don't have anything to work with.
Thank you, Mary. Another question we got pretty frequently was, how would you negotiate for an entry-level position? Say you're coming right out of college when you don't have as much experience.
Yeah. I have a client, she's the daughter of a friend, and I've been working with her since she was in high school. She went to GW, graduated. And so when she was negotiating for her first professional job out of college, and we were talking, and she said, I know you always say negotiate every offer, so I'm thinking, Mary, I know I don't have much to negotiate with, but I'm thinking, I've got my degree and specific coursework that I've taken. I have research that I've done that is very meaningful to this organization. She said, and I'm thinking I can also kind of combine two of my internships because the experience that I got from working overseas in these challenging situations, I think is going to enable me to be, much more effective right off the bat. And so we talked it out. We came up with, a good pitch, and she went in there and she got $4,000 higher salary than the entry level, which they told her was just the entry level period. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question that we're getting pretty frequently is, how do you avoid giving away your salary expectations when they're really starting to push you on it?
Okay, this is a great question. I hear this question all the time. So again, it's language. Now they're gonna ask you this sometimes even before the interview. They'll ask you sometimes when they're setting up a phone interview. And the language goes like this. I'm not prepared to discuss salary at this point. I really do feel I need to learn more about the position. I'd like more of an opportunity to present my qualifications and expertise. And again, once you've given the response, stop talking. Okay, so language like that. And then if people keep pushing, you could say, oh, well, are you making an offer at this point? Kind of faux innocence, because you want to continue to avoid getting backed into a corner. And these are just tactics that we learn to be savvy negotiators. And it's not something that is taught really hardly ever. And especially for women, these are just strategies and tactics that we have to learn.
Great, thank you. And then another similar question was, if an employer tells you it's a non-negotiable salary, is there any way to get around that?
That, the statistics, as we saw, said 85% of the people who negotiate get more money. Well, then that means 50% of the people don't, okay? And there's a number of reasons. It can be internships, for instance, paid internships. If they have a stipend, that's the stipend and that's it. Some entry-level positions are also a set salary. The other time we'll find set salaries is grant-funded positions, okay? So if they say, sorry, the salary is non-negotiable, then we can come back and say, oh, well, I'm disappointed by that. I'm wondering if we can't negotiate for some other benefits to offset the fact that there's no negotiation room for the salary. And then you would go into negotiating for those benefits, those non-monetary benefits.
Thank you. And
the other thing, I'm sorry, Greg, but let me jump in.
No worries, my bad.
Yeah. Another tactic when they say that it's a fixed salary, and say, oh, well, I am disappointed by that. I would like to propose, since the salary is fixed, given my, and a quick review that will be similar to bargaining points, given this, this, and this, what I would like to suggest is an early review. I know with my experience and training, I will be able to be fully functioning in the shortest period of time. So I would really like to negotiate an early review at this point. So, an early review is an opportunity to increase your salary sooner. And all of this, has a monetary gain. So it's not a huge monetary gain, but it is still a monetary gain. Yeah.
Thank you. And then another question that has appeared frequently as well is, if you're negotiating for a startup or a company where the base is low, so maybe much of the compensation is tied up in equity, that's high risk. Is there any different kind of strategies for companies like that?
That's a really good question. Yeah, today we see more and more of the, entrepreneurial types of businesses, and more people are striking out on their own. And so in that event, one, we want to make darn sure going into this that we know as much as possible about this startup, okay? That we've done the research into their financials, all right? Oftentimes we can see their annual reports, reports to a board, things of that nature, business plan. Find out as much as you possibly can about these people, okay? And then if the salary is low, and they are indicating that is, because they are at the startup level, then negotiating for stock shares if they are in a stock situation, also can be profit sharing, and things of that nature. You can negotiate for more vacation time in that kind of situation. So, but you need to know as much as possible about them, their financial stability at this point, a reasonable expectation in terms of what forecasting looks like for them, in terms of how are businesses of the same sort doing, in the open marketplace. So you need to be well informed.
Okay, thank you. Kind of similar. Are there any different type of tips if you're negotiating for a raise within a nonprofit where there are established salary grades?
Yeah, now nonprofit education, okay, there are established salary grades. Again, this has to do with what you bring to the table. So it's not only in terms of your accomplishments. So for instance, if you're in a development role and you've exceeded all the budget levels for planned giving in any given year, then you can negotiate based on something like that. All right. This is again, anytime that you get additional training, okay, certificates in particular. I'm seeing more and more people, especially people with degrees that are 10, 15, 20 years old. It's a great idea to get a certificate in some hot new subject area. And so if you've got recent training, it doesn't have to be a whole certificate. It can be coursework. If you have created trainings that can be offered to not just colleagues, but perhaps as part of customer presentations, that kind of thing. So it's again, you know, even in the nonprofit world where we have these structures, you can move, you can get, you know, the decision makers to bump you up, if not a step longitudinally, occasionally skipping a step going up the ladder.
Thank you, great response. I know we're running out of time here. We're going to get to as many questions as we can.
Thanks, Greg.
No, thank you, Mary. Another one we're getting pretty frequently is whether or not you should be negotiating every year during your performance review, or if that's a good time to be negotiating at all.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, that sort of depends on what the structure of the organization is. And this goes for profit, nonprofit, government, education, kind of across the board. Some organizations will have a COL raise. It's usually annual. Others don't. So if there isn't a system in place for regular salary bumps, then you want to be doing it. Every year will kind of also depend on what was the ratio for your last raise. So if you've just received a really significant raise last year, then you may want to try for a small raise, or you may want to let a year go by. It depends. And it also depends on financially, where is the organization? Again, profit, nonprofit, education, it doesn't matter. You know, organizations go through periods where they have more robust funding and better financial outlook. In which case, and if you had anything to do with, you know, improvements in any of that, you want to get your share. But I don't think it's a great idea to feel that you should do it every year, because there's all manner of factors that play into that.
Thank you. Another question, kind of two from the opposite ends. Any different tips for negotiating a raise with a female boss, and then tips for, I guess, negotiating within a more male-dominated field?
You know, no. And, you know, back in the day, they used to say to women, you know, we're a flirty little outfit or something, but we hope those days are in the past, and we don't want to be sinking to those kind of techniques. I think that, you know, in terms of my experience, that gender is not an indication of someone's receptivity. All right. We can't make broad generalizations that men are going to be tough negotiators and they're not going to give an inch, and women are going to be, you know, namby-pamby, emotional, and pushovers. Okay. You can't, not only are those stereotypes, but they're just not, they don't, experience doesn't bear that out. So it has to do, you know, in any given situation with what kind of person this is, what they have to work with, and how much they value you as a colleague. I think in approaching either a raise or an initial negotiation, I would counsel that you don't consider gender part of the factor in the interaction at all.
Okay, thank you. Are there any tips on negotiating a salary when you're working within a team but you have less qualifications than them but are doing the same work?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, you know, even when you're working in a team, you still have a direct supervisor, and the salary negotiation is between you and that person. But you know, it does bring up some extenuating circumstances, and I can see where people can have some concern there, all right? Because if you feel that you've been a strong performer in the team, perhaps even a lead performer, and that the progress of the team is, in your estimation, due in no small part to your efforts, then when you negotiate, don't be thinking in terms of team. Be thinking in terms of what were your accomplishments. So this goes back to what I said before about keeping your little, you know, your little notes when you do something noteworthy. So approach it from the point of view of team notwithstanding. This is you in an interaction that is key to the viability of you in your career. Okay, in this instance, you're not a team member, all right? You're an individual embarking on a negotiation. Now, does that mean that we're not gonna, you know, have any problems if someone on the team finds out that you got a raise and they didn't? And of course, the answer is no. That's not gonna. That's not gonna, you know, inhibit that from happening, because, sad to say, people gossip, and salary should be private to an extent, but you know, people will find out. So you don't want to, I think, you don't want to have concern for the team morale override your needs to be tending to your own career. And it can be a tricky balance. I'm not minimizing that. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to be taking care of your own career.
Thank you. And thank you to all the attendees for their great questions. This is going to be the last one.
Okay.
What are some examples of bargaining points, or how would you group those together? What order would you bargain with?
Oh, okay, that's a good point. So again, if you're younger, you're going to be lucky to come up with 2 or 3, so it's not going to be in order. But let's take a look at people that may have enough bargaining points to go, for instance, 2 rounds, all right? This is an excellent question. So you're going to want in first round to have 2 of your stronger points, but you want to save 1 strong point to lead off with round 2. So let's say you have 3 really strong bargaining points, 2 that are, you know, more moderate in terms of the value that they communicate. We'll take, you know, 2 strong ones and a moderate one for round 1, and then a strong one in a moderate round 1 for round 2. So very good question.
Yeah, I think we're about out of time. I know that a lot of people asked a lot of questions. I hope too that some of the questions will be answered as they can follow up with you, and also they can go ahead and read the guide. I'm just going to pull up a slide that gives information about how you can get more information about the resources offered by UMass Amherst. So we have the Alumni Advisor Program. There are more than 1,300 alumni on this online platform that all want to talk with you about career conversations, mock interviews, LinkedIn help, resume help, and other things that you may have questions about. So reach out to those individuals through our Alumni Advisor platform. We have career counselors. We have networking opportunities with different events. And we also have webinars like this one that will be recorded, saved, and then put onto our webpage. So please go to umassalumni.com/career in order to get more information about any of our career resources, events, and also the posting of this webinar. So just one final word from Mary, if you want to share your takeaway thoughts that you want to leave everybody with as we leave our time together today.
All righty, great. Again, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I think we had a real good group and some great questions. So final thoughts, never accept that first offer. Point two, remember that 85% of the people that ask for more money get more money. And lastly, truly you have nothing to lose. You have so very much to gain. So get in there and fight for the best deal every time. And I'm just going to wish you all tremendous success in every aspect of your life, particularly great success and good fortune with salary negotiation. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please watch your email for a survey that you'll receive by email, just asking for your feedback on this webinar and your experiences with us. You can register for any of our events or learn more about the different resources that we offer by going to umassalumni.com. Have a good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Go UMass.